Welcome back. The details. President Abdel Fattah AlSissi received on Sunday United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan at Al Alamein Airport. Following the reception, the two leaders held the summit talks over a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern. The meeting also tackled means of fostering bilateral relations and joint cooperation in various domains. Egypt and the United Arab Emirates have strong and historic ties, which represent a model to be emulated in Arab relations.
The Egyptian-UAE relations are based on the foundations of strategic partnership between the two countries to achieve interests of the two peoples and face challenges in the region. The leadership of the two countries and their officials always meet at all levels to coordinate on these challenges. The number of exchanged visits between the two leaders of the two countries has reached about 22 since 2014. UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces visited the Egyptian capital about 13 times. The Egyptian popular diplomacy also played a role in supporting relations with Abu Dhabi, where it expressed its appreciation and thanks for the UAE's position, which has backed Cairo in the fight against terrorism and extremist ideology. On the 7th of June 2014, a high-level UAE delegation headed by Mohammed bin Zayed participated in the inauguration ceremony of President AlSissi to open the page on Egyptian-UAE relations during the era of the new Egyptian leadership. After only 3 months, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan held talks with the Egyptian president that included files of the region, a visit that determined the strategic nature of the two leaders' meeting. President AlSissi began the year 2015 with his first visit to the UAE at the invitation of Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. It was agreed in February 2017 to form a bilateral political consultation mechanism that would meet every 6 months at the level of foreign ministers and the other at the level of senior officials. The two countries have strong and solid relations, which represents a model to be emulated in Arab relations. At the economic level, the UAE ranks first in terms of foreign direct investments in Egypt, as UAE direct investments reach about $15 billion. In return, Egypt is one of the UAE's largest trading partners, and the UAE market is the first destination for Egyptian exports. Egypt and the UAE represent a buffer wall in order to protect the region and a model of relations to be emulated in the region and the world. Recent years have witnessed close coordination between the two countries on major issues such as Palestinian, Iraqi, Lebanese, Libyan, Yemeni, and Syrian issues. There is a great convergence in political visions and positions towards regional issues.
President Abdel Fattah AlSissi met on Sunday with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Finance Dr. Mohammed Mait, Deputy Minister of Finance for Financial Policies Ahmed Kojak, and Deputy Minister of Finance Public Treasury Dr. Ihab Abulaish. President spokesperson Ambassador Bassam Radi said that during the meeting, the head of state discussed the latest financial policies. The president directed to preserve the indicators of the state's economic performance during the current fiscal year. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli held a meeting on Sunday with Minister of Civil Aviation Mohammed Hilmi and Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Ahmed Isa over joint files between the two ministries. During the meeting, Madbouli tackled the file of operating the system of low-cost flights, air sinks, and the studies carried out in this regard, which asserted the contribution of this kind of aviation and increasing tourism. The meeting also discussed the regulations for implementing the new system, including starting with a certain number of airplanes during the first phase and raising it gradually according to the primary results and evaluation. The reservations for these flights will be through the internet electronic platforms during the coming period. The Ministry of Interior continued its daily campaigns to follow up on prices of strategic commodities and crimes of hiding and selling them with higher prices than the official ones. In the last 24 hours, the ministry reported 472 supply cases confiscating 156 tons of food commodities and other goods. As for hiding strategic commodities and subsidized goods, 6 tons were confiscated. 118.5 tons were also seized in cases of selling with higher prices. In case of bakers' violations, 722 cases were reported, and in manipulating the system of imported wheats, more than 6 tons of local wheat were confiscated too.